Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
I'm Ben Matlock.
And if you missed us last week, that was my fault.
Yeah, well, it was a fault.
Power went out mid recording, and then all these computers have like these backup systems to be like, oh well, don't worry, your stuff is safe, and it's never safe.
If you know what you're doing in DOS, you can find anything, and then you find it, and it's like mangled and destroyed, and you wish you never found it.
So we were just talking about it before hitting record. The good news is the power's back on right now. The bad news is I didn't figure it wasn't a power outage. The breaker just went, and I haven't figured out why it did it yet. So it could happen at any point. So
that's all right.
Maybe that fear, the flying by the seat of the pants fear of this could go at any second, will just improve the energy of the show.
I doubt it.
Me too.
I've kind of had a lot going on this week, so I wasn't able to get a true topic together. So you're getting back-to-back creepypasta episodes. I'm sorry, okay? No,
in fairness, they were broken up, but you just didn't get the middle episode.
Yeah, I actually really liked the start of this one. Like I say, I find these, I read a few paragraphs in, but I try not to spoil the whole thing for myself, just to get a feel of like, do I think this will be good for the show? Because it's kind of better to react to it live. But
Which is great, because one of these days you're gonna, like, the first half will start out like a creepypasta, and then it'll end up as just like a straight out hardcore erotica, like.
God, I hope so. Every time I'm disappointed. But I'm sticking with what I've been trying to focus on the award winners, you know. And this one, the way it starts really hooked me, because it really speaks to the nature of what, like, when we bring these to the show, what we're doing, which is, you know, obviously we're making fun of writing that more often than not isn't very good. And not making fun of the writers, it's just the stories themselves. And we always try to point out, like, this isn't about bashing people for trying to write. It's more having fun at the fact that, like, yeah, sometimes you create shit and it doesn't work out. And a lot of creepypastas fall in that framework.
All I can say is this one better have a character that, like, only cares about marshmallows.
No, he died, remember? In the last one.
Yeah, but
the last marshmallow.
It used to. My requirement for it to be a creepypasta used to be you don't nearly shit yourself, and now there's got to be a bag of marshmallows.
I'm pretty sure that was the only story where a bag of marshmallows would come into play.
Probably in, like, the history of mankind.
I still love that fucking story, though. Like, the idea of that kid riding his bike, still eating marshmallows, but, like, way into trying to find a monster while eating them.
The only thing that would have been better is if right before, like, when he found the body, he looked over and saw the monster, like, eating a toasted marshmallow, like.
All right, so this story is called La Bruja by a user named Killahawk1.
Don't kill hawks.
Well, no, he's a killer hawk.
Oh, I see. Yeah, most hawks are.
Yeah,
they're kind of known for that.
They're assholes. God damn it, not again, screamed Ricky after opening the much-anticipated email. Pinch pendejo, he said even louder. Hijo de puta madre. He picked up his expensive mouse and threw it against the wall. Besa mi culo puto. He slammed his fist down, shattering the tricked-out, top-of-the-line gaming keyboard. So he's just ruining all his great Razer shit. Ricky continued to stare at the message, the words mocking him from his computer screen. The message was topped with a large header in white font that stood in contrast to the black background. Right there, the two hated words that said, story deletion. Ricky is all too familiar with these words. In fact, he should be able to recite the entire message from memory by now. Story deletion. Your story has been deleted because it doesn't meet the quality standards. If you feel that it did meet the standards, please state your case on deletion appeal. Make sure you follow the instructions to the letter there, or your appeal will be automatically denied. So when I first found this story, I thought, like, oh, wow, this actually got deleted.
Many times from the sounds of it, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, well, sorry, Killohawk. It looks like your shit sucks. Do not attempt to re-upload your story. If you upload it again, you'll receive a 1-day ban from editing, as per the rules. Ricky loves scary stories. He comes from a culture rich in the history of the supernatural and macabre. The only thing he loves more than scary stories is writing scary stories. Sadly, there is one problem. How do I put this? Well, the truth of the matter is, our friend Ricky here is, for lack of better words, a shitty writer. There's zero talent in this poor boy's head, and the same can be said about his imagination, too. His characters have no substance, his grammar is atrocious, his plot developments are non-existent, and his word choices are, might I say, infantile. In fact, I would go as far as to say I've seen pigeons shit out more interesting narratives than this kid. But I digress.
There's a few funny things about that, because it's like,
oh, it's funny.
It starts off with for a lack of a better word, a shitty writer, because he can't think of good description. I'm like, you just had a lack of a better word.
I know. It's like this narrator is like just bashing this fucking kid. I imagine it's Rod Serling from Twilight Zone. That's how I was reading it, and it's like,
oh, I wish you would have done that in the Rod Serling voice.
I was trying to like narrate it in that way, but I couldn't do it. I don't have a cigarette, so I can't. Couldn't pull it off.
But then the other thing that's funny is now where I'm imagining, he's built up empathy for this character already, because if your story is so bad that they say it's not quality enough for a creepypasta website,
right?
Like,
yeah. And that's where a lot of like video game creepypastas ended up. Like that was what was really surprising when we first started doing these episodes. Was there's a lot of really funny video game ones, but you go online and it's like, these ones suck shit. We're not gonna let you read them. And it's like, okay. But just imagining this narrator, like, meet Ricky. He's a piece of shit, a terrible writer, a garbage human being, you know. And he keeps going for 2 more paragraphs just bashing Ricky. What is truly sad about this whole ordeal is that Ricky truly believes his stories are good. No, he thinks they are great. The dark and sinister entities that inhabit the worlds he creates are far superior to anything seen in a movie or found on the internet, or so he believes. His dark tales are capable of tapping into the primordial pools of terror buried deep within our subconscious minds. That's what he expects his readers to find from every one of his works, whereas you and I would see it for what it is, a juvenile, uninspired, boring piece of shit. It's just
now
so
I want to
mean.
read Ricky's stuff, so they better include a full, like, Ricky story in here.
Some have even gone as far as to say that his stories are so bad, looking at the words for too long will give you pink eye. Like, it just keeps going. Like, you established it. But he's just like ripping him an asshole here.
But he mentioned that Ricky's his friend, so.
Well, it's not just like, some would say that his stories are so bad that it gave me herpes. You know, like, it's like, what are you talking about? These aren't even connected insults. One boy claimed after being forced to listen from beginning to end, Ricky's story gave him an ear infection. Like, fuck. Whether any of that is true or not, it is well-known fact that once you finish reading a story authored by Ricky, you are actually more stupid than you were before you started reading.
You're now impotent and...
Oh, man. Brain cells literally drop dead in the middle of whatever brain cells do in their brain cell lives. Like, this isn't good writing, and it's just bashing this character for being a shitty writer. And believe me, it's not just a few, but a lot of them. Alas, Ricky will not hear it. He doesn't like rejection, and he already has it in his head that they are not even reading his stories. He is convinced they don't even bother to give him the time of day, and they automatically delete them. The tantrum builds, and his cheeks turn red as he screams out loud, "Why would they not listen to me? They never give me a chance." He knows this to be true, especially in consideration of how they treat him and what they say about his stories. He angrily reads the comments. Bad grammar and punctuation, but I'm new to this site. Can't you just tell me what to fix or fix it yourself? Misspelled words? It's the way my character speaks. Poorly written and awkward sentences? English isn't my first language, so give me a chance. The story is not creepy. What do you mean it's not creepy? There's a fucking witch in the story. How's that not scary? That's a good point.
Yeah.
You got a witch, you got a spooky ghost in it. That counts. You see, Ricky is a spoiled kid from a well-to-do family. Never has he had to go without. Never has his demands not been met. Never has his ungrateful heart ever been denied a single demand. Except these stories, apparently. There's nothing he could not have in his pampered life. However, with such a luxurious lifestyle, he also has never had to dream or aspire for greater things. Despite its value, all the objects of his desire were carelessly tossed to the side or forgotten when interest was lost. They meant nothing to him. Eventually, Ricky turned that frustration outwards upon those who were weaker and less capable of standing up for themselves. For every insult, every slight, and every time he did not get what he wanted, he inflicted that rage back upon the innocent bystanders 10 times over. He terrorized all the children within his sight. Well, tonight that will all change. That is why I have been sent. That is my charge from Mila Dama. Tonight I will reveal to him the stories of his people, and enlighten him about where he comes from. I bring knowledge under cover of night and carry revelation on the tip of my tongue. With his last breath he will learn this final lesson. Thou shalt not suffer the cries of a spoiled child. Which I don't think was a commandment. But
yeah, no, and it sounds like a very harsh... It's like, I'm going to teach you to be spoiled. I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
It's your final lesson for not knowing how to use syntax properly. So when the boy lays his head upon his pillow and closes his eyes to sleep, he will be unaware of the small leather pouch tucked ever so carefully beneath him. It will call out to her, it will summon her, and she will come. She will drink, even though her thirst for revenge can never be quenched. She will feed her hate, though its hunger can never be satisfied. To understand the events soon to come to pass, we must look to the past. Know this, the more days that go by, the more things stay the same. Long ago, the people of Mexico suffered from the deeds of corrupt men and endured the cruelty of the true rulers of the land, the cartels. While savagery and brutality swept across the plains and darkened the skies like a cloud of locusts, a small village near the city of Catemaco, Mexico, prospered. It remained a tranquil, safe haven, untouched by the evils of men. In those days, the villages were weak and vulnerable. They could not defend themselves against the powerful and corrupt men, infected with the sickness of greed. Government and town officials lined their pockets with sweat and blood of the poor. No justice or protection ever came for the people. Farmers' crops were plundered and destroyed. Workers were kept in constant poverty. Their sons would be taken against their will by the banditos to replenish their numbers. Alas, it was the daughters of Mexico who suffered the most. Many mothers and fathers could only mourn before a single lit candle, for there was not a body to bury for the funeral. They had lived their lives knowing what that became of their beloved child. Too many shallow graves sprinkled the countryside with the bones from unnamed girls. Among this violence, all but one village suffered. Those of questionable character and darkness in their hearts would not dare enter the borders of this town, for its people were under the protection of a powerful curandera. Her name was known from afar, and her magic was strong. The evil men knew this to be true, and they would not risk her wrath upon them. This ate away at their egos, and soon they began to conspire among themselves. In secret and darkened rooms, they plotted how to be rid of this meddlesome woman. Early one morning, the curandera awoke to the sound of a child's cry. It was not a cry of terror, but a cry of pain. She ran out of her small house to see a boy sitting on the dirt path that ran alongside her home. Next to him was an old bike. Hitched to the rear wheel was a weathered cart carrying a large wooden box. He sat crying on the ground, clutching both his arm and leg, even from a distance. She could see the 2 painful welts upon the boy's skin. The curandera knew precisely what had happened and took a glass jar of salve from off her shelf. She went out to the boy and warmly said, "¿Qué pasa, mijo?" And I'm going to stop reading the Spanish version because I'll keep fucking it up.
I actually, to my non-Mexican speaking ears, It's actually sounds pretty good. I was impressed. But
Well, they translate it for me, so I can stop.
yeah.
What's the matter, little boy? No answer came from the boy. A little irritated, she asked, did something sting you? Was it an ant or a wasp? Again, the boy said nothing. The curandera was becoming annoyed, which is like, you went out to help this poor hurt kid, and you're like, let me fucking help you. She looked carefully at the boy who sat silently before her. From the clothes he wore, she knew he was a rich man's son, most likely the child of an elected official or a member of the town's elite. She gently applied the medicine to the painful stings. The skin was hot and bright red, surrounding a lump the size of a large grape. When she finished, the boy simply turned, jumped on his bike, and pedaled away without a word. This angered...
sounds like most kids I know, but yeah.
This pissed her off. This angered the curandera, and she made a mental note, which I don't know what that mental note would be. I'll get my revenge.
That kid, I'm going to fucking kill him, yeah.
In the very near future, someone will need to teach this boy some manners and the importance of respecting his elders. Shortly thereafter, the curandera went about her day-to-day business and forgot about the rude little boy. That night, after the curandera had laid her head down to sleep, she awoke to a loud bang. Her door had been broken down by several large men. They bound her hands and gagged her mouth to prevent any chance she might utter a hex upon them. They took her wand, made out of sacred hotokol, I don't know what that word is, wood. It's made out of wood, basically, and snapped it in two. They removed her saco de curation, medicine bag, from around her neck, leaving the poor woman completely defenseless now. The men dragged the woman before the town's clergy, who were the most corrupt of them all. Denied any opportunity to defend herself, the curandera was accused of witchcraft and blamed for this year's drought and the poor harvest. To be fair, she had a wand.
Yeah, I mean, we know that anything bad that happens is the witch's fault. We figured that out in Salem a long time ago.
Which I bet you could just, like, it was like cops dropping drugs on a crime scene. Like, they would just break a tree branch and, like, toss it in, like, a witch.
a wand. The part that I'm confused about is, like, they drag her through town to the clergy, who were the most corrupt of them. But it sounded like this town was untouched by the corruption. I thought that was the whole point. Like,
forget about it. You worry too much. They said she was in league with the devil and proclaimed her to be a Bruja. They sentenced her to death. The onlookers cheered upon hearing the verdict. She looked across the crowd and mourned at what she saw. The faces she had known for so long, those faces who came to her when they were sick or needed healing, were gone. In their place were hateful and dark eyes, filled with the bloodlust of an angry mob. She stood on the platform next to a short, thin coffin that stood upright. The crowd shouted and jeered as they grew impatient. She closed her eyes and tried to center herself amongst the shouts of swears and insults. The curandera began to pray. She prayed to the Holy Mother for deliverance. She begged and pleaded to her for protection. She pleaded with all her might. She begged the Holy Mother with desperation, proclaiming her good deeds done and a righteous life she lived. Only silence greeted the curandera. The crowd suddenly grew quiet, and the curandera opened her eyes. She saw the crowd separate in the middle and make a path for a little boy. The familiar child rode on an old bike and pulling a cart with a box. He dismounted the bike and walked around to the rear, opened the box that sat upon the cart, and carefully removed a large burlap sack. He held the bag at arm's length and quickly brought it and its contents to the clergyman. As the man of the god took hold of the sack, the boy looked up at the woman, smiled, and disappeared in the sea of bodies within the mob. Still bound, she was marched relentlessly to the edge of town. All the way she was beaten and humiliated by the people who followed along. She was brought before a freshly dug grave and shoved hard into the open coffin. She stared up at the men mocking her from above just as they were about to seal the coffin shut. The clergyman held up his large hand with the burlap sack. He flung the bag into the coffin, and the men quickly nailed the lid closed. The men picked up the coffin containing the curandera and dropped it into the dark hole. The sound of dirt covering the coffin was loud and thunderous. So, like, that's gotta kind of suck if you're part of this mob. And it's like, you're taking her to the fucking grave anyway. but you still have to like pick up the coffin with her in it.
Yeah, well, that's what they get if they got overzealous and they put her in it before they thought they could have just
like,
put the coffin in the hole and then made her get in there. Like, well, we can't take her out now. That would make us look stupid.
Let's just now she'll know we're dumb witch hunters. The curandera lay terrified in the pitch dark. Just before the light had been extinguished, she saw what had been tossed in here with her. At her feet lay the largest wasp nest she had ever seen. Soon she felt hundreds of thin legs begin crawling over her body. They angrily explored this dark prison as they searched for the one who dared to disturb them. Time slowed as the curandera waited for the first sting to strike her. Once again she prayed to the Blessed Mother for protection, and still there was only silence. Pain from the first sting exploded over her right cheek. The sharp stinger was stabbed into her flesh. It tore through the skin and went as deep as it could. The wasp contracted its abdomen slightly, pumping its venom into its victim. It pulled out its sharp tip and again jabbed the stinger back into her flesh. For the wasp can use
it turned into an erotic story.
That's a terrible fetish. It's weird. I just saw on Twitter like a news story like teen sticks his dick in wasp nest. Like just before we started recording, and I was like, well, yeah.
Well.
I hope it went well. For the wasp can use their stingers over and over again. Even if they have exhausted their venom, they will not stop stabbing. She screamed in pain as she was stung again and again. They stung her eyes and crawled into her open mouth and stung her tongue. This really is like getting fetish.
Yeah.
In fetish territory. The insects crawled down her throat and into her ears. Venom filled her veins and her skin turned red as it swelled and burned. Remember, this is about Ricky, a spoiled brat kid. The wasp poison saturated her blood, causing it to thicken and burn. The swelling cut off her breathing, and she began to convulse. This angered the little beast, and they stabbed her more relentlessly. Blood trickled from every puncture. Not a single spot on her body was spared from the wasp's sting. The pain continued to grow, never did it lessen. She was about to call out to the Virgin Mother, then she stopped herself. Betrayal and abandonment hit her deeply, causing more agony than any wasp could bestow. Anger and hate consumed the woman. She knew what she had to do. She would call out to another deity. This deity would come. She would call out for Santa Muerte. Which is like, this is how I would handle it. You know, not somebody who devoted their life to God, you know.
You call out to the Santa of Death. I think that's what Santa Muerte stands for.
There was a character in that Mummy movie with Brendan Fraser, who like he's like the weaselly betraying character, and he like when he runs into the evil mummy, he starts pulling out like he has a necklace with like every holy like symbol attached to it, and he like keeps pulling it out and trying to like pray to a god until something works. Yeah. And it's like, that's what I would do. And then like if none of them worked, I would try them all at once and just go, ah! Santa Muerte, I call unto thee. I offer myself to thee. I deny the Holy Mother. I deny the Father. I deny the Son. I deny the Holy Spirit. Take me and I will do thy bidding. The curandera laid motionless in the darkness, wheezing and gasping for air. Her stings upon her skin were stretched until it tore from the swelling. The swarm of insects continued to poke and jab with their long stingers. The buzzing of their wings was deafening. Then suddenly all was silent. The scraping of long fingernails traveled down the side of the coffin. The curandera tried to open her eyes, but her face was too bloated. I know what that means, but like...
It is a weird choice, yeah.
Like, it mattered
Swollen
not.
Would have been fine. Just yeah.
She went in the coffin and then just ate like 4 donuts and
too much salt. Yeah, salty chips. That'll do it.
It mattered not. She had not sight as the wasp stingers had penetrated her eyelids and filled her eyes with venom. The scraping stopped and the curandera heard the low and ancient voice of a woman speak. "What's the matter, my daughter?" The crowd had not yet dispersed when the ground began to shake. The men had lingered and were congratulating themselves and laughing when the ground opened up. Black thorns emerged from the soil where the curandera laid, and the dirt blackened with decay. All was still for a moment until a deep and inhuman moan was heard from the sky. It called to its new disciple beneath the ground. The villager cowered when the low voice boomed from the cracks that spread out from the spot of the woman's unholy grave. I curse you. I curse your children. They will taste the venom that now flows in my veins. When I hear a child cry, I will come. I will come for your children. They will feel my sting. I will nest within a home made from their skin. I will use their bones for stirring my brew. I will quench my thirst with their tears. I will dance to a melody made from a symphony of their screams.
I will delete their creepypastas.
I will delete. So they buried this woman alive because they thought she was a witch, and she's like, I'll show you. I'll become a witch.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's... Yeah.
You know.
In fairness, that's probably the path I would take.
Yeah, if you have that option to get out of being buried alive with wasps. She let out one final wail of demonic rage only until the sound only the sound of wasp wings could be heard. 3 days later, the traitorous boy helped by the curandera disappeared without a trace. It was fate that brought the two together. He had been tasked with finding a wasp nest. It was by chance that two of the insects escaped and stung the boy near the curandera's home. She had shown him mercy, and he had repaid her with rudeness and betrayal. An empty bed was all they found, except for the small pouch hidden underneath his pillow. When they found it, it held only a piece of paper wasp's nest. Wait. Piece of paper wasp nest. That's
paper wasps are a type of wasp, so I assume that's what they...
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of nouns shoved together there.
Yeah, I think you could have just probably called it a piece of wasp nest.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Ash and a lock of hair cut from the boy's head. She still keeps a part of him with her on her at all times, even to this very day. As time went by, more and more of the children disappeared. Eventually, like the righteous curandera, the little village died a slow and painful death. The people in that area still speak of the dark Bruja. It is told that when the days shorten and the nights grow cold, the children must be especially good and obedient. For if a child is spoiled and shows no respect, the Bruja will find you. They say she is dressed all in black and wears a cloak made of wasps.
Yet another monster that the moral of the story is, hey, be good kids and listen to your parents.
Yeah. Or we will kill you.
Stuff up. Yeah.
She can fly long distances and climb up walls. She will tap on your window and tempt the child to let her in. Her nails will click and tap on the window pane until the child hears her voice from out of the darkness. So that is the story of the La Bruja. She is the one I serve. She is my lady, and I serve her well. I find those children who are spoiled and rotten. I find the ones most deserving of the fate my lady brings. And who am I? Well, let's just say that I am someone who is familiar with matters such as these, but that is a story for another time. However, I will tell you this, I am neither angel or demon, but I do perform God's will. I bring balance. These are kids. These are just like asshole kids.
Yeah,
and like the universe must be aligned.
I was kind of questioning that part too, that it would be God's will. Regardless of what your personal religious beliefs are, I don't think too many of us yeah, I subscribe to a religion where God's will is to kill rude children.
And not to mention, she forsook, God.
Which was the whole point to begin with. It's like, screw being good and trying to lead
good just life. Puts me in a box with a bunch of wasps.
Wasps, yeah.
That is my mandate from the Heavenly Father. The Bruja has no mercy. She holds dark and powerful magic, fueled by an inexhaustible source of hatred and rage. I direct that rage to those deserving of it. Fucking children. Are you fucking kidding? There's so many holes in this plan. Where it's like, to even out the universe.
Not necessarily holes, but they're trying to make it sound like this is a terrible creature, but kind of like on a righteous, like
they're trying to do an Anton Chigurh thing with No Country for Old Men, where he is convinced he is a force of the universe, and he is not. He's exempt from morality choices.
Yeah. And then how it's just like this great thing, but he's tasked with taking out the scourge of the earth. bratty children. Not like these adults that are committing actual crimes or, that kind of stuff.
How about the people who buried her as a witch? She went after one boy. Like
the boy didn't say thank you.
Yeah, and he was a fucker, and he put wasps in his coffin, but...
The thing is, this is just one of the accounts that left out the part that when they shoved her in the coffin, they said, thank you for getting in there. And she's like, well, fuck, these people are killing me, but they've got manners. But that kid, he was rude as hell.
He was so rude. He just ran away without saying thank you or giving me $50. It's like those people who find dogs and, like, expect a reward.
Yeah.
She holds dark and powerful magic fueled by an inexhaustible source of hatred and rage. I direct that rage to those deserving of it. Such hatred and wickedness cannot be allowed to roam free and go unchecked. I ensure the innocent are protected and the wicked are punished. So listen to my words, little boy or little girl. Do what you are told. Honor your mother and father. Be on your best behavior. You don't want to end up like Ricky here, now do you? Take heed, for if you do not, there will come a night when you will hear a tapping at your window, as the buzzing of 1,000 wings fill your ears. You'll hear the low voice of a woman asking, "What's the matter, my child?" The end.
Yeah, that was definitely written by a cop.
So as funny as the Ricky intro was, not necessary to the story at all.
Not really, no.
Because you never really established him as a piece of shit kid. All you did was, like, call him a shitty writer for 3 paragraphs.
Technically, yeah, they bagged on his writing for 3 paragraphs and then mentioned just real quickly, like, yeah, he's just spoiled. He always thinks
also, he's a piece of shit.
Like, maybe you could spend, like, 2 sentences on the story, like, writing abilities and 3 paragraphs on why he's a piece of shit, but that's just a suggestion.
Yeah, like, you could bridge those thoughts together, but this one didn't really.
Or you could leave him out altogether. Frankly, we're kind of poking fun at different holes and stuff, but I didn't hate the whole, like, setting and idea of this. Now... I do have to question, because he very much started we got to go back in time to... I kind of laughed at it. He's like, to a time when cartels ruled,
cartels
Mexico.
ruled the world.
Yeah, because that's not what it's like now. Yeah, good thing
we got to go back to last Friday.
But then they established, except for this one town, that everybody left alone because they knew this powerful woman lived there. And then they decided to kill her.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, I thought you said everybody realized she was the reason that they were safe. Yeah. And I'm not saying because humans are fickle and stupid. Like, that is kind of a thing that you can do in literature, because it mirrors real life, where people are very willing to, like, cut off their own fucking foot to spite, like, some stupid thing. But they didn't really establish that. It just went from, like, she's the savior of this town to, like, let's throw her in her box with some wasps.
Yeah.
We didn't get a lot of rain this year, fucker.
Well, we all saw the stick in her apartment. That's a witch.
But for the most part, I kind of liked the, like...
I liked the
setup.
idea. I feel like the last one I actually enjoyed quite a bit, and I thought it was a bit more of a coherent, like, start to finish. This one is kind of... It seemed like it started with the idea for Ricky, and then he came up with this separate idea for this monster. Which
makes me...
and couldn't really bridge it.
My initial impression that Ricky is really this person, this Killahawk that wrote it. Like, that was all... I almost guarantee that was from experience. Like,
yeah. Well, they changed. He was pasta of the month with this one.
Yeah.
So... yeah, that's a thing. I'm all out of things, so we'll try to have a thing next week. How about that? How's that sound?
Yeah. I don't know. That sounds like a lot of work.
Until then, honor your parents.
My power will mysteriously go out again next week.
Until then, always listen to your parents, because they're never, ever, ever wrong. Or they'll fucking kill you. Good night.
Not them, because you got to establish, listen to your parents. They're never wrong and they're never bad. But if you don't listen to them, some third party will come murder you, because we got to maintain that your parents are good.
There's not a court in America that wouldn't know that the parents were involved in hiring this Bruja hit job on their children.
I do love that, though, that you pointed out that it's like... And I get it. They established this kid as he didn't say thank you, so of course he deserves like a painful death.
Really, the wash.
But yeah, there was well, yeah, that too. But there's literally no retribution against the adults that physically like.
Yeah, they just hear the fucking voice being like, "I will fucking kill you," and they're like, "Ooh, that sounds bad. Let's go get a drink."
And I like the idea that they came up with this plan. They're like, we're going to kill this witch. Let's send our littlest boy out to gather the wasps. And then to be the custodian of the wasps right up until the execution. And then we'll part the crowd and it'll be so fucking dramatic. She'll appreciate it. Like,
yeah,
like that'll teach her. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that'll show you.
Like, Bill, couldn't you have just brought the wasps? And it's like,
I wanted to believe, because it wasn't clear, but I wanted to believe the kid just was really, for some reason, really wanted a wasp nest. And then when she was getting buried, he was like, oh, this is a good idea to use my wasp nest.
Yeah, like, I thought the thing was going to be, like, you find out that the kid couldn't speak. Like, maybe he had an impediment or something like that. And he was bringing her, like, one last kindness. But then it's like, nope. He's basically the good son, or whatever that movie was with
Macaulay Culkin,
right? Yeah.
That movie's fucked up. Like, you can't... Like, they do, like, a happily ever after thing with that movie, where it's like, well, I'll be the mother to Elijah Wood now. But it's like... She let her kid drop off a fucking cliff.
Well, he was bad.
He was the bad son. But
I wish they did that thing though, where you work the name of the movie into the movie itself. Like as he's following, she's like, "No, my good son." Splat.
I always want that, like, just Morgan Freeman narration at the end of every movie, and he truly was the good son. Yeah. Tom Cruise, by the end, was the last samurai. Anyway, we're done here. We've rambled. Bye.
Yes.